Hey everybody, Average Picker here. You can see I've got the Lily dog and a bedhead mohawk going on. So the whole My Story challenge, I thought that would be interesting to do. Just talk about my story and how I got into lockpicking. But I thought I can kill two birds with one stone and take you to one of my other favorite places. I did this before. I think was it Storylock? I think it was for his birthday. I sometimes confuse Storylock and Lockmania together. And so that's where we're going to do. We're going to go on a little walking adventure into, not even sure what the place is called. Technically, we're at the Constitution Lakes area. It's also known as Doll's Head Trail. But we're going to go past that and to the Mad Hauser House. So because this is going to get a little more complicated by the fact I've got the dog with me, and we do have to go through a park that is quite in use at the moment, I'll give you a little bit of a story of what happened here. The place we're going to go through used to be a brickyard or a brick foundry, and it went out of business and just overgrew and everything. And at some point this guy discovered the spot, and he found all these dolls back here and he started hanging them up in the trees, and he just sort of did it as this thing that maybe somebody will find it one day. And he kind of fell in love with the spot. He got the city involved in it and the county involved in it, and they've turned it into a proper park now. So this is much different than when I first found the place. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And sadly, a lot of the dolls have been stolen out of here now. We'll try to find a few of them and look for a few of them. But where we're going is actually, it's a grayish legal area because it is on some railroad track property that we have to cross onto, and we've got to go through the park to get to it. But it's a Mad Hauser's house. And the Mad Hausers is an organization. They've tried to have branches in other states. This is the founding in Georgia is where it started, Atlanta, I think specifically, and it's the longest running one. And what they basically do is they build these small shelters for homeless people that are out of the way and, sorry, okay, I'll come back to that. They're out of the way and stuff, and that allows the homeless people to secure their belongings. And so the guy who started Dollhead's Trail started using one of these Mad Hauser locations as a place to stage the dolls and stuff and prepare some of them for putting out in the woods. So that's where we're going to go. There's nobody currently living in the Mad Hauser's house. A guy had lived back there for a couple years in this house, and then he finished and he passed it on to another homeless guy who lived back there for about a year, and then he moved out, and so yeah, now it's just this kind of thing that's there if you know where to go to find it. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm absolutely getting killed by mosquitoes out here, but we kind of have to stop here and at least show off some of this. This is Constitution Lake, and all of this kind of Martian stuff, it was all caused from the brick production. This is all started from runoff pollution from the brick foundry that was here. So people fish in here, I think they're kind of crazy. The brick production would have been here, I think, in the 30s. Don't quote me on that. The level of this thing goes up and down like crazy, and it is just full of junk. But yeah, anyway, let's keep moving. Okay, just to give you some perspective, this is the trail we just came down. This spot kind of marks the official start of the Dollhead Trail. The dog is not too interested in going down there. It's a lot of trash art. And like I said, there used to be hundreds of dolls down here. This trail is pretty new. It used to be like half that size, or maybe a quarter of that size. You had to just kind of know to come back here. But since the parks have gotten involved, we've got actual trails and trash cans now. So we're actually going to kind of go up that way though. So hopefully that's what we'll be doing. All right, let's try this. So yeah, for telling my story though, for lockpicking, I probably should have looked up some dates. Oh, here we're gonna go into the woods here a little bit. Yeah, I don't even know how many years it's been since I started. It's kind of been a minute. Lily, come on. But it started because my partner Casey And it's kind of a muddled history. There's not a moment where I started necessarily, if that makes sense, but my partner Casey, I knew when she was like 8 years old. She had always wanted to be a spy. And so one year for Christmas, I thought it would be fun. And I did a very tiny bit of research, very, very tiny bit, and found and bought a Southford kit for lockpicking. So I knew kind of I was trying to stay away from, the Chinese like Amazon Banggood. Is it Banggood? Those Amazon kind of sets. I wanted to get like a quote unquote real lockpicking set for her. And so I stumbled into the Southford kit. I bought one of those, and it really just sat on the mantle as kind of a novelty item for a while. It was like, oh yeah, we've got a lockpick set, and it was just sort of there. What we're following, by the way, is it's an access road for the railroad tracks, which are up that way. And this is where it starts to get a little bit, the legality of it gets a little bit weird. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here either. So yeah, we'll see what happens. If there's any crews out working like they are sometimes, we probably won't make it, but I am baking in the sun, but at least we've gotten away from the marsh and away from the mosquitoes. Okay, well that's over. Man, be kind to your dogs. They are way too loyal for their own good sometimes. So we did have to walk along quite a bit of railroad track. You can see a stretch of it up there behind me, and Lily dog was just going right along like a real trooper, but I noticed she was having issues walking. And it turns out she was picking up tar. Some of the tar on the tracks was melting because it's so freaking hot out here. And she was getting it on her feet, and it's burnt its way into the pads, and she was picking up rocks and stuff on it. And she was still willing to keep going. It kills me. It breaks my heart. Luckily, I did catch it really soon. We hopped down here onto the part of the access road. Had water and everything, so I was able to get most of it off of her paws. She's doing all right. She's going to be just fine. Don't worry about that. But that does kill it because we do have quite a bit of walk to do, and it is either to let me see. Can I get this thing to flip? Is it going to flip? And it is either to walk on stones like that, which she absolutely hates to do, and there's only a very narrow trail of it, or to walk on the actual tracks. And they are active tracks. Right now we don't have to worry about anything because nothing's scheduled to come through for a minute. But yeah, that's going to kind of kill the chance of getting over to the Mad Hauser's house. So we are going to abort that plan, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So we're just out here taking a little breather. You can see one of the troubles out here is there's just no real, she would love nothing more, I think, than to sit down in some grass and take a breather. She's had water, she's had treats, we've cleaned the majority of the tar off of her feet. She is walking okay. It kills me how loyal dogs are, So because of the way we're coming back, you are able to see some of the stuff here at Doll's Head. Like I said, it is kind of just like this trash art. But there used to be all these dolls, and you would just walk through this little trail that nobody kind of knew about, and you would just find these weird dolls hanging in the trees. And then since they've done more work out here, they have excavated or people have just excavated out more and more trash. And so it's less dolls, more trash. But they kind of try to arrange it in a slightly clever way, and that way is always changing and coming and going, and people just keep rearranging it. So it's pretty neat. It's a neat little spot. And the Mad Hauser's thing, I was really hoping to show you guys because it's a really neat kind of gray solution for homeless people, because what the Mad Hausers discovered was that homeless people had a higher chance of recovering if they had a place to keep their daily goods safe. And, I mean, lock sport does cross into that whole security thing, and I think we can understand that need for securing belongings. And they found, if you could secure your belongings and you didn't have to worry about them and carry them with you all the time and do everything, it freed you up to be able to do other things, like work on your situation. And they've had quite a good success rate. So I was hoping really to show you guys that house. But yeah, that's just not going to happen. So whole change of plans here on this trip. And here we are back in the safety of civilization with mochas and espressos. I don't know what this video is going to look like at this point. It's going to be really long. Nice story. Wow, where were we? Yeah, so the kit sat as this novelty item, just kind of on the bookshelf. And it was a frustrating thing as well, because we didn't know what any of this stuff was. I mean, there was key extractors in there. We thought they were picks. There was, it was like there's absolutely no instructions, and there was no like guide or anything that even said, hey, this is a short hook, this is a steep hook. How does this stuff work? How do you choose which one to use? What are these tensioner things? Didn't even know they were tensioners. So it was just this frustrating piece of kit that was fun to have. And I don't know, maybe a year went by, and we had spent some time here and there trying to figure out what the different pieces are and things. And I watched a sprinkling of videos here and there. And that's how I discovered and found out about the cutaway lock from Sparrows and the reload kit. And I thought, okay, this will make a neat addition. So, it was like another Christmas or birthday or something. And I picked that up. And yeah, I played around with it. Really, I thought at the time, this is all you need, right? This is the trick to the whole thing, because we've got the repinning kit. We can repin this one cutaway lock. And we've got the lock. What else do you need, right? we could simulate all the locks with this reload kit, and I still think the reload kit is a really good deal. But man, was I wrong, right? So yeah, it started kind of just both of us picking on that reload kit, but we really discovered only one of the hooks in that whole kit was really useful. The rest of it was just this extraneous stuff that we didn't really need to use. And so it wasn't really both of us picking, right? It was both of us, who's going to get to use the useful pick. So I decided I was going to order myself a pick. And I picked up the Sparrows Tron and some Topokeeway tensioners. And then one day at the Restore, I discovered they had this huge bucket. Nothing but those, I still have some, not very many. I've hung on to a few. They had hundreds of these Schlegs with no keys, and you could buy them by the bag. You could just fill up a bag for 50 cents or something. And so, yeah, I ended up buying 300 of those. I think I bought every single one they had, and they are all out. Probably a lot of hit dead ends in the community now, but I did send them all out into the community just to help, because I thought, new pickers, they're ideal for learning on. So yeah, I just was blasting them out when I realized I don't really need them anymore. There was just no point in having them. But that's also when I discovered, around that same time, the reload kit is not sufficient. It is not a way to simulate every lock out there. All these locks are different. And, I think from my partner's perspective, she was just more interested in just that very basic level of it. And she's good enough to get in, through, our front door or something. Not that we've never, I shouldn't say we've never picked our front door. Right, but that's the level she's at, and she's content to have been there, and she likes it. She understands how locks work, generally speaking, and can spot stuff in movies and go, well, that's not quite it, right? But yeah, for me, it just there was a puzzle factor, and there was just something really cool about it, and it just took off, and I just kept trying to get my hands on locks. And at the time I was doing all this sketching, and the sketches started. I was running a little bit low on ideas, but the sketches were starting to slow down. The lock picking was starting to get a little bit more. I was really watching more videos and branching out on the video watching, and I want to come back into that and do some stuff talking about that later. But yeah, I mean that is sort of my story, I guess, in a nutshell. It was bought. Picking set was bought as kind of a fun gift curiosity to have, and it just slowly morphed into this. And there was a couple turning points. I think really one of them was in realizing, because I discovered the subreddit, was in realizing the belt ranking system, like, there wasn't a need to follow it, that was kind of a big turning point. And a lot of that was thanks to a lot of your videos out there. I really like a lot of you, and I'm going to try to highlight some of you later. You really shifted my perspective on picking, and you made it interesting and kept it interesting for me. And I don't know if you realize, some of you, the impact that you did have on me. And I do want to share that with everybody at some point. But yeah, that was kind of just it. It just kind of rolled into this thing and has a little bit taken over. And, even when my interest starts to dip a little bit, I still find there's an interest in something with it. And so it's been enough to keep it going for quite a while. And I don't really worry or think about what I'm picking or where I'm at picking wise. It's just fun to pick and fun to explore the locks. And I love seeing the challenge locks. So I guess the short version is, it's just, it started as this sort of minor novelty-ish thing that we thought would be kind of interesting, and I then just snagged the hobby and ran away with it. And here we are some years later, I guess. It's hard to believe how long, in a way, I've been doing it. I mean, I've not been doing it as long as a lot of people out there. But I have been doing it for a minute, and it's interesting because I see people come up so rapidly and just show so much skill and ability, and for me it was never like that at all. All my other hobbies or interests or stuff, for the most part, they were a lot more brute force-ish, I guess, and stuff. This idea of the carefulness and the patience and the little movements was not something I was accustomed to. But God, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I've been around here now for a minute, and I'm seeing people pop up that I've not known. I'm like, oh wow, where did you come from? And just heaps of talent, and they rise very rapidly. You see them picking multis and stuff, and I'm like, going, oh really? God, I'm just getting into that kind of thing. But yeah, good on you, man. I mean, seriously, I absolutely love to see people into it and getting into it and sticking with it. So yeah, anything with that's great. All right, everybody. I think that's enough of a ramble. Have a good one.